So the originals
Yeah,
were
like alder
absolutely
bodies and
alder,
maple necks.
maple neck, and
Yeah,
then
and now
rosewood
they
or ebony. But the new ones
yeah,
are, I mean, the
they're
headstock
mahogany
thing
everything.
is a little off. The body is completely off. The control placement. They didn't even Gibson has a modern Dirty Fingers pickup that they make that they could have
Yeah.
used because those guitars came with Dirty Fingers. They didn't even use their own proprietary new Dirty Fingers. They put 80s pickups in them, the wrong wood, wrong shape, strap button location. I mean, every little single thing that they could have possibly done wrong, they did, at least on the Explorer. I won't say the same for the
Yeah.
V. The V is closer.
Hey, everybody out in YouTube land. My name is Mike, and I love guitars. And welcome to another episode of the We Love Guitars podcast. Today, I've got my good buddy Shelby on the line, and we're just going to talk about some guitars. Shelby, you and I have very different opinions about reissues and yeah, as you put it, period guitars. Specifically Gibson. So let's get rolling. We'll have some hot takes and kind of have some back
Okay,
and forth on that a little bit.
sure. You want me to start?
Um, sure, go ahead. You talked about you wanted to start with the 50s Les Pauls.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so first thing for me is there's really two ways of looking at like well, we're talking Gibson. There's as an artistic endeavor, whether it's you're talking about innovation or craftsmanship or whatever, everything aside from the bottom line. And then there's as a
Yeah.
business, which is bottom line. And
Yes.
as a business, I can understand why they would continue decades after decades, dipping into the same wells over and over. They're certainly not the only company to do it. And
Yeah.
they've richly earned all of that nostalgia and history and reputation and everything that fuels that kind of market. But sometimes it can feel a little stale when you start. Gibson introduced the 50s that you'd mentioned, and then they introduced the 60s, and then now here come the 70s. Who would have thought? Same thing with the Mesa Boogie. When they
Yeah.
bought Mesa, they kind of started immediately bringing back some of the old stuff, and you kind of almost know what's going to happen with them. But I get it. From a money making standpoint, if it doesn't sell, we'll know real quick. And I like a 70s
Yeah.
Gibson product more than most, I think. But the biggest thing for me is just is it done well? They
Yeah.
charge a lot of money for 50s reissue guitars, and so the more affordable what they just call their 50s, which I'm assuming the biggest difference is like a little bit larger profile to the neck and maybe slightly different
Yeah.
pickup.
Yeah.
I don't imagine they go deep into the actual 50s construction necessarily on those $3,000 models. But I have mixed feelings, yeah, like you said, and
No.
when it comes to certain products,
Well, I know Bill has a white one of the newer 50s Les Paul standards.
yeah,
He keeps threatening to let me borrow it, but actually has to make it to town to bring it to me.
well,
um, and he has not been able to do that yet. But and I really I want to check it out because I've never played one of the 50s Les Pauls. I've played a couple of the 60s Les Pauls in like Guitar Center,
sure,
but
sure,
I've never played a 50s. I do know they've got chunky necks, which Bill has always loved that like 50s neck profile, like the big, thick, chunky neck.
he does.
And I'm not a huge fan of that. Like I don't hate it, but I prefer a slimmer neck.
You and I, but
Um, yes, but I would have to look up the specs. There may be some slightly different wiring specs, but I think that's really about it. Cause I think that even like the 50s Les Pauls still use like modern weight relief.
probably so.
I
Yeah.
think I could be like I could be totally flamed in the comments for not
That's
knowing that no
yeah.
50s Les Pauls have no
Hey,
weight room.
that's Ethan's
Um,
territory, man. That's getting into the good knowledge. I won't lie to
yes.
you. I don't.
I wish Ethan had the time to be on the line with us tonight, but he has some family
Yeah,
stuff. But
it's our
I know the '60s Les Pauls, they have the '60s slim taper neck. Um, and again, I don't know that there's any difference in the wiring. I know like my Blueberry Burst is the Trad Pro 5, the Guitar Center exclusive, and it's got all the push pull knobs for coil splitting and all that stuff. I want to say I think the '60s standards have that as well, but again, I could be wrong. I've never actually owned a '50s or a '60s standard, but again, I know for sure the neck profile is different. Um, and then now the '70s Les Paul customs.
uh-huh.
I will say this. A I like that it's a Gibson USA, not a custom shop
Oh,
run,
sure.
because that brings the price down quite a bit.
Affordability. If
So it's
depending on how
yes,
affordable you think $4,000 is, you know, for
yes.
me,
Um, it's
I
more
think of
affordable than a custom shop Les Paul custom.
yeah, 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 and they have, like you
You
say,
know,
the custom model has been locked away for custom shop only for a long, long time, and they've been like, but six, seven, $8,000, and it's just not. It's
yes,
unobtainium, even for guys like us that are thankfully very, very privileged to have some beautiful pieces. I mean, that's a lot of jack for one axe,
yes.
for sure.
That's
I'll say
more
this.
than Rachel.
Oh yeah, yeah. What's that's that's a
I
that's
say
a
it's more
sit
than
down.
Rachel
That's
is
like
ever likely to let me spend on one guitar.
yeah, that's a whole round table meeting with the family and everything. That's a I'll
Yes,
say this about the
that's
50s.
a
Bill has that white one you were talking about. It came to me first,
yeah.
and I got
Oh,
it all
did oh
lined
yeah,
out. Put his
that
size
makes sense.
strings, and I know how Bill likes his stuff and everything. And I
Yeah,
I didn't find anything to pick on. There wasn't any uh, funky paint job, no bad fretwork. It was as nice as as you would expect any Gibson standard Paul to be. He wound up thrilled
yeah,
with it. All it needed was just to be tweaked to his specs, and I liked it just fine.
yeah,
I played a couple 60s, like you say, in the store, not perhaps dialed all the way in, and didn't have any problem with them. It's like you say, people want, and I think this is why so many Epiphones get sold, and don't even get me into the signature model stuff, but it's like the stuff that isn't really what it's supposed to be seems to sell a lot harder. There's only so many 50s Les
yeah,
Pauls to go around, so they make that 50s. And as long as it's priced fair and it's good quality, there's no big deal. Now I do run into it in the car world a lot, and you see it more now than ever in the guitar world. You're talking about a 2021 model, and you're calling it a 1968, and so you have to be very specific sometimes because, as you just said, some of those guitars are already almost $10,000 new. So the line
yeah.
becomes blurred between the originals, and what these some of these reissues are trying to replicate. I am curious on the 70s customs that we're talking about,
Yes.
as to whether it's going to be, just how faithful it is. I don't imagine they're doing sandwich bodies, but hopefully the three-piece
No.
maple neck with the volute is there, and the big headstock and stuff like that. You and me both
So
are big
I
time
was
Norman
checking out
guys,
yes, I was checking out the specs. They don't have pancake bodies, which only early Norland
and they
guitars had
wouldn't.
pancake body.
Yeah,
Well, I should say
yeah,
no, like the first half.
up to about
By the time like
76, I
my
think.
79, they stopped using pancake bodies by the time I got my 79.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
yeah. Here's the things I do like about the new 70s customs.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, First off, I love the tobacco burst finish. I'm highly tempted to figure out a way to put one of those on a Guitar Center credit card one of these days, but we'll see. Time will tell. It does have the 3-piece plain maple top, which was very common in the Norland era.
Yeah.
That's exactly what my 79 Les Paul Standard has, 3-piece plain top. Unfortunately, it does not. It's a single piece, from what I can tell, maple neck. I really wish it was a 3-piece, but it's not. It's a single piece. It's a 1-piece, but they do have a true volute on the back of the headstock. It's not like the Adam Jones 79 Standard. It has a volute, but it's like a teeny tiny kind of teasing volute as opposed to like a real. Yeah. From what I can tell from the pictures, the 70s Les Paul Customs, like those are real deal volutes on the back of those headstocks. And I love that.
Right.
I really, the only thing that I wish was a little more accurate on the spec was I wish it was a 3-piece neck,
For sure.
but it doesn't appear to be. Otherwise, I gotta admit, I kind of like it, particularly the tobacco burst finish. I actually have the specs here. I can look at.
Pretty sure I saw a wine red one in there for me.
In it. Okay, so yeah, the wine red one does look good. I would love a wine red one, but if I got one, I would either that or a black one, either one of those. But I would replace all the hardware with chrome hardware instead of the gold hardware. Just personal preference.
I love the wine red
showing. Yes, me too. It's showing pickups as a calibrated T-type bridge and calibrated T-type neck. I don't know exactly what that means. I've never heard calibrated T-type. I guess
they've been calibrated.
Maybe that's
yeah.
Well, what I'm expecting is that's a take on the classic T-tops.
Yeah.
Since it's T-type.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what it is. I haven't heard any kind of. I've actually heard very little information about the 70s Les Paul Customs, which I'm a little surprised by, being like a new Gibson model. But again, I feel a little different about the reissues and stuff like that. And yes, I have the Adam Jones signature. I mean, it is a little silly because it's a signature model of a signature model, because a lot of people forget the Les Paul was a signature model. So it's an Adam Jones signature of a Les Paul signature. But I really wanted that one because Adam Jones was such a huge influence on my guitar playing early on. And I've just always wanted a silver burst. And it was like,
who doesn't
it was
love
the most affordable way I could get. Yeah, exactly. And it was the most affordable way I could get into a silver burst. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So otherwise, I don't get into the signature Les Paul models all that much, just because again, it's like a signature of a signature. It's one of those like Russian nesting dolls of guitars, or it gets a little silly when you get to a certain point. But
it's tough for me too, and I like signature guitars, but when you're talking Pauls and Strats, they've been done so many times by so many popular artists, and there's just only so many ways you can put one together. And
yes.
It's still a Les Paul 99 times out of now. Maybe Dave Mustaine has a little something for us that's new coming out, if they'll ever drop those, and we'll actually get a Les Paul with a 25.5-inch scale, an ebony board, but with some otherwise more standard type of features, something that's actually not been completely done, 24 frets, I mean, something fresh. I do like those Access models, and the modern.
Yeah, the old Alex Lifeson Access, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me put it this way. I don't get mad when Gibson tries to fix stuff. I'm just like you are. I'm a huge Norland guy. I thought, pancake stuff aside, which everybody picks on, and rightly so, but as far as the 3-piece construction of maple with the volute, I thought that was the best move they'd made since the beginning. And then,
Yeah.
they've got modern stuff too these are nice features, and I'll never fully understand the kickback, from the general public because they live in, Gibson is in this constant uh limbo of trying to innovate and then also keeping it classic or whatever, play authentic. And I personally, but this is again those two mentalities. The artistic endeavor in me wants to tell them to just do something fresh and quit worrying about the old stuff. But then the business of them, has stock people to please and all that. I guess they have to turn a profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just, my biggest problem is not whether they make certain products. I don't tell them what to do. I'm nobody. It's just, is it done well? Like you said, did they do the three
Yeah.
piece neck on the 70s model? I don't think it would have been a lot of trouble to do it that way. ESP slash
Yeah.
LTD uses that style construction on almost every instrument they make to this day. And they got it from Gibson. And it's a three piece with a volute.
Yeah.
Man, you're not going to, you can't break that. And that kind of leads me
Yeah.
into the, after the 70s is the 80s. They make guitars for that too. You've got the Explorers and the Vs, and they can't keep the Explorers on the shelves because everybody wants to play Hetfield. But Gibson, with all these
Yeah.
CNC machines, couldn't be bothered to make it even near an actual 80s Explorer. Like that's when it's done poorly and then they want 2,500 for it. That's when I say, I don't think that was really the move, and that's a whole
I
can of
I
worms there.
I I understand where you're coming from. I do wish because again, I'll be honest, I want an 80s Explorer just because of I mean what I really want is an 84, like an actual 84 Explorer. Um,
Amen, brother.
but short of that, yeah, short of that, I would like one of the official Gibson 80s Explorers. I
Yeah.
do wish they actually, I do wish it was like an accurate spec wise, instead of the mahogany. What were they
It,
alder bodies in 84?
it's so far off. So the originals
Yeah,
were
like alder
absolutely
bodies and
alder,
maple necks.
maple neck, and
Yeah,
then
and
most of
now
them
that
were ebony. But the new ones
yeah,
are, I mean, the
they're
headstock
mahogany
thing
everything.
is a little off. The body is completely off. The control placement. They didn't even Gibson has a modern Dirty Fingers pickup that they make that they could have
Yeah,
used because those guitars came with Dirty Fingers. They didn't even use their own proprietary new Dirty Fingers. They put 80s pickups in them, the wrong wood, wrong shape, strap button location. I mean, every little single thing that they could have possibly done wrong, they did, at least on the Explorer. I won't say the same for the
yeah,
V. The V is closer. It was,
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot closer. But I just couldn't, knowing how well they were going to sell. Perhaps some of the bean counters somewhere said, "Hell with it," but I mean, it's to not
yeah.
even be able to get the body shape correct, I thought was a bridge too far, you know? God forbid they make it
It's
out of mahogany. I
yeah.
mean, woo, big deal, but, you know, some of it's just inexcusable for me. I don't know. It's
I like I
tough.
said, I do wish that it was more accurate to the an actual 84 Explorer. Again, so I have my feelings on Gibson is I think I think they're really kind of just stuck between a rock and a hard place. I really do. Um, because and you already kind of said it in passing a little bit, but every time they try and innovate, well,
Yeah.
the innovations they make are a little questionable at times, like the robot tuners, like,
They certainly
really?
hit and miss,
Um,
definitely.
uh, but unfortunately, there's such as we all know, there's a big portion of Gibson customers who are like the lawyer types who
Sure.
have a lot of money. They can buy the $10,000 Murphy Lab,
Mhm.
custom shop guitars, and they want like original vintage everything. They don't want any innovations. They don't want any updates. They want it,
Yeah.
even though most of them can't play guitar. I shouldn't say that. A lot of them can't play guitar to save their lives. I mean, I'm sure there are probably some who buy those guitars who don't even know how to tune a guitar, like Leo Fender. Leo Fender never knew how to tune a guitar.
Some
Um,
pieces are bought from
but
pure collectability, and we're not here to judge that, right?
yes, yes. My point though is like the people who have the money, they don't want the innovation, they don't want the change. They want the classic. They want they want that vintage everything. They want the image. You know
They
what I
wanna
mean?
feel like they're
Um,
there, and they're willing to pay for the
yes,
experience, and that Murphy Lab stuff isn't
yes.
cheap,
Um,
and it sells,
no,
you know?
it's not.
And there's nothing wrong with
And
that, you know?
yeah, I I really like the HP models. I have never gotten an opportunity to play one. I don't think they have sold particularly well, which again is disappointing because I feel like every time Gibson tries to do something like to modernize, either they just get ripped to shreds online or nobody buys it. So it's one of those, again, that's what I'm saying. I feel like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because it feels like every time they try something new, they just get kicked in the junk over it. You know what I mean?
It has happened quite a few times, and it's not always robot tuners and stuff, like you say, the HP Ethan bought the, gorgeous, wine red HP Flying V. And man,
Yeah.
I mean, it had, yeah, you're talking about a height adjustable nut with no heel whatsoever in the back. I mean, completely carved. Now, I won't say that
Nice.
their fret end dressing was quite as nice as what I do. To be fair, I charge hundreds of dollars for it, and they're trying to make thousands of guitars a day. But they did at least do an
Yeah.
attempt on those at doing kind of a little bit of a like a recessed, slightly ball ended fret there that didn't go clean to the binding there. You know, and they're great.
Yeah.
They're great guitars, and but people don't they don't latch on to stuff like that very quickly. Sometimes, like you said, they're so used to stuff, and it's tough. And you never know. It's and I meant to make this analogy earlier. It's kind of like with your favorite band. There are usually most of the fans are going to want a little something different every time. You're always going to have your diehards that fear change,
Yeah.
but it's kind of the opposite with the with the bands and the music itself. People always like a little something different, little something fresh. Whereas with the
Yeah.
companies, and it's so strange. People love new stuff from new brands and new names. They'll accept it if
Yeah.
if you got some funky, cool add-on on your Strandberg, Bowden, whatever, then people say, "Oh, that's so cool." And Gibson has something like that that they maybe even invented or whatever, because God knows a lot of people forget how much stuff Gibson has innovated and invented themselves. But they'll look at that and go, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's so out of place. I don't understand." It's just the fear of change, I think. But a lot of it with Gibson too is the price. I think people you
Mm.
know they really want to get their money's worth, and when you start to get into any kind of serious Gibson territory, at least new, you're in for 2 grand plus on up. And I think that's
Yeah.
where a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff comes from too, is people know that they can
I don't
get
disagree.
comparable, Japan or Korea type of stuff for similar price, and it's competitive. I'll say this, you can get whatever you want if you shop hard enough. Ethan and I do an enormous amount of used business, and I'm not trying to plug any of that or anything, but there are so many US and Japan made beautiful instruments there for way under 2 grand. And I understand when
Yeah.
something is retail is $2,800 or $3,500 or something, like, yeah, that's a hell of a lot of money. But the used market is better than it's been in a long time, and people really,
It is.
they complain about how much new guitars cost, and fair enough. But I think a lot of those people would be that time would be better spent shopping on marketplace and stuff, because there's always another one out there for a good price, and it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
old and beat up and ruined. God knows you're a deal hunter yourself. You probably got 5 irons in the fire now.
I was actually just talking about this on the last podcast with my buddy Cliff, right? So at any given time, I have, because, as you well know, almost everything I buy comes from pawn shops. I do buy the occasional, like, the Facebook Marketplace deal, that kind of thing. And I do, like, I've bought three brand new guitars. Bought one
And that's
Les Paul
special enough.
Studio back in the 90s.
Yeah, every once in a while
Yes.
we'll go
Um,
for something new, you know.
yeah, yeah. So like I said, three brand new guitars ever. One Les Paul Studio back in the 90s. Then the Les Paul Trad Pro, the Blueberry Berries Trad Pro 5,
Yeah.
just because it's like when I saw that Blueberry Burst, that was the first time I ever had a Wayne's World moment. Like, it will
Yeah.
be mine. Oh
Yeah.
yes, it will be mine. And then the Adam Jones Silver Burst. Like I said, everything else comes from pawn shops. So at any given time, I have at least two guitars on layaway in a pawn shop, at
Sure.
least.
Sure.
Right now, I've got three. I've got that 335, the Gibson 335 that I've had on layaway for like 2 years at this point, from my favorite pawn shop that says I can take however long I want. I've
I
got
love
that
it.
Gibson Vegas that we talked about,
Oh,
which
sure.
I
Yeah.
am so looking forward to getting that. That guitar is so different and just uncommon in a lot. Just like it, I love weird things. That guitar is weird, and that makes it super cool to me. And then I have that Charvel that we talked about. So I've got those three guitars on layaway right now, as
Right.
well as one or two other little adjacent goodies. But
I know I'd like to get my
um,
hands on that shell pink Charvel whenever you spring it from jail. Definitely.
yes, yes, I will definitely send it your way. Um, I've not yet decided if that's a forever guitar or not. Um, I like it, but I'm on the fence about it being pink. But it was such a good deal. Like, even if I decided to flip it, it end up being worth it, basically.
Got a
Um,
classy look. I'll say
but
this, the Mexican Charvel stuff has really been tickling me the last quite a few years. They've got, of course, they're emulating the San Dimas stuff the best they can, but the necks are
yeah,
comfortable,
yeah,
the action's good. You know, those are some solid instruments for the money. Definitely.
man, the guitars coming out of Mexico right now, just in general, like, I really across kind of like the Fender brand, Fender, Charvel, Jackson, they're really nice. Like even the EVH stuff, because
Yeah.
that's still Fender umbrella as well. Man, those I'm telling you, like, when I've discussed this before many times, but when you and I were teenagers, like, made in Mexico guitars, they were like the cheap stuff you got when you couldn't afford
They
the
were the
real
affordable
thing.
alternative, but not the
Yes,
preference. Right.
they were student guitar, they're beginner guitars.
For sure.
The stuff they're making now is really nice,
You
like
can tour
really,
with.
really nice.
Yeah.
I
Good stuff.
absolutely. That's Jim Root, when he first got that opportunity to make his signature model. He was given the choice between the made in US versus made in Mexico, and he ended up going with the made in Mexico, and that's what he toured with. And all of his Charvel stuff, I believe, is all made in Mexico, and he's touring with it. So yeah, I completely agree. Even, like, really, it's only like the top end EVH stuff that's made in the US. Like, all the other, I mean, they have some overseas stuff that's like the really affordable stuff, I believe, is made in Korea, but even those, like the Korean guitars these days, are so nice. Um,
A bunch of them in here right now, believe me. I have
yeah,
had more fun in the last 10 years with 12 to $1,600 Korean guitars than I have had since Jackson was making affordable stuff in Japan in the 90s. You know, it's
yeah,
crazy how good and specifically the LTD. Although I have, tons of friends that really love their Schecters. Zach Wild's been doing real good with his stuff. Obviously, Ethan and I are huge Sully guys. I've got on order as we speak a Sully Korean Conspiracy Series custom order guitar that I'm super excited about. Can't wait to show you that when it comes in. But that
yeah.
world music, in Korea, every dealer, every brand has their own wood specs, their own QC. You know, it's different, but everything made there is worth the
Yeah.
money. And it's just
Yeah.
killer stuff. And I'm seeing, like you were just saying, a lot of the cats that we grew up listening to that are still out there touring the world that have custom shop $10,000 pieces that maybe they use to record and stuff. More now than ever, those guys are pulling out sub $2,000 instruments. From one night in Turkey, the next night in France, wherever, and those guitars are holding up. And it's an exciting time we live in. I know a lot
It
of people don't think
100%.
something teen hundred is affordable, but
Yeah.
it is 2025, and that is not an enormous amount of money for a guitar. And there's a lot of good ones out there. Just specifically to the Korean factory. I'm sorry, I,
I
I'm
I
I'm a
agree.
big fan of what's going on there. I'm not. I don't turn my nose up to something just because it isn't USA. Believe me,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
collection
I
reflects
agree.
that.
I agree. In the past, I have been a little snobbier than I am these days. But again, particularly doing this channel and playing more import guitars, like borrowing import guitars
Sure.
from you and Ethan. I borrowed a an EVH guitar um, from Jeff. Um, I have been very consistently, very pleasantly surprised by how nice these
Yeah.
import guitars are. Um, they are, and again, like for the longest time, like when I was still turning my nose up at them, it wasn't. It was just because of my experience again growing up. The import guitars were kind of cheap junk at the time.
Sure.
They were great for getting cheap instruments into brand new players' hands,
Yeah.
but that's all they really were. But the turns have tabled, as the kids say,
The
and
CNC revolution.
yes,
Yeah.
and man, that these import guitars from Mexico, guitars from Korea specifically, oh, they're so nice. I mean, you know as well as I do, like Japan has always made fantastic guitars,
Oh,
like
for
always.
sure.
Um,
My
so
favorite
like
guitars are Japan, if I'm honest.
yes, and I've never, even though obviously Japanese guitars are import guitars, I've never really considered Japan built guitars as imports because of how nice they are.
Yeah.
But I think they help set the standard overseas of what guitar building could be.
Yeah.
And again, like even that, because I believe that Mustaine Kramer you have, that's a Chinese built guitar, correct?
That you got me. That is in fact my only Chinese guitar. And if I'm
That is a
perfectly honest,
nice guitar.
it Mike, for the money, uh, it's really tough to beat. I sweetened up the frets a little myself, but it
Yeah,
came with premium Duncan pickups, a super nice paint job, a very comfortable neck. I did minimal fret work to sweeten it, and it of course I don't use it now. I've had it
yeah,
signed by Dave, and it's more of a wall hanger collectible. But with the case that they come with, and everything said and done, and especially again going back to earlier, if you shop around used, it's really tough to beat. And that's I believe
particularly if you're
Gibson.
patient.
Yeah, and I want to say Gibson has their own factory in China where the Epiphone and Kramer stuff is made. So
Yeah,
maybe, maybe they should have a little bit better quality than your average $300 Temu knockoff,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they do, and I know a lot of
for
people out
sure.
there now. I won't take an Epiphone over a Gibson. That's just not my style. But I know a lot of
Yeah,
people out there say, they love their Epiphone. They've got, you're talking $900, $1,100 guitar, and they've tried them all, and they keep going back to it. And to that, I say to each his own for sure. If
yeah.
hey, if you drink box wine and it's good, it tastes good. Hey, drink it. I mean, it's I had
Yeah.
a sommelier tell me that years ago. He said, "Don't let the price tag get you, man. If you like it, it's good." I mean, and so
Well,
I don't tell anybody what to play. Believe me.
e exactly, and, I was talking to my buddy Ross, on an episode a couple weeks ago, and he made a very good point because he's a PRS guy.
Oh,
He's also
sure.
a big Tremonti guy, so he plays the Mark Tremonti SE Paul Reed Smith guitars.
Mhm.
And he loves them. He absolutely loves the SE, and the way he put it is like, I can buy four SEs for the price of the US Mark Tremonti. And he's like, the first thing I do is I pull the electronics out and I put the US Mark Tremonti pickups in it. And like, so it's like they're virtually the same.
Right,
It's
right.
just instead of a full like flame maple top, it's a veneer and I pay, a quarter of the price. And I was like, that's fair, man. And I agree with you. I've never been one to like I can be particular about what I keep in my collection, but I've never ever been one to judge other people for their collections. Like whatever, man, at the end of the day, whatever inspires you to play, that's what matters. Period.
For
Period.
sure, for sure. I will judge a giant corporation for the product that they offer and the price and quality of that product and things, but I do not judge the customer or the buyer. You know what I
100%.
mean? It's
Yeah,
one of those
absolutely.
things. And it's yeah, just like you said, if you like your Squire, I am not here to bully you because I'm lucky enough at my creeping up on 50 age of being able to afford nice stuff. That doesn't take away. And half the time, Mike, I'm ashamed to say, uh, some of these kids that are roughing it on these guitars are they're coming out better for it, and they can smoke, and it's just crazy. Then you put them on a nice piece, and half of them don't even know what to do. It's so effortless, I,
Yeah. Sometimes I watch the 8-year-olds on YouTube or
yeah.
on Facebook just shredding away. And I just like, I just never want to pick up another guitar ever again.
Oh yeah.
But then, I get over my humiliation and self-loathing. And then, I turn around and I see a big line of guitars behind me. And I just, the, really this is like the best therapy ever. Cause this is, where I do my YouTube studio recording stuff. It's also this is my office, so I work in this same space. And if I'm ever stressed out at work, all I have to do is take a break, turn around, and that's why I have, I know a lot of people will say you should only ever keep your guitars in the cases. You should
Oh
never have
no,
them on stands. You should,
I
when you
I
have,
can't.
yes,
Yeah.
when you have as many as we do, anything that sits in a case doesn't get played. So if it's out and available and I can just reach out and grab it, I'm gonna play it. And I regularly purposefully like if I go to grab something like yesterday I played that one, so today I'm gonna play this one. And I very purposefully rotate the guitars in and out. It's why I also with the videos that I make, I very purposefully try and trade the guitars out.
I
Um,
do the same thing. I've got the big wall, but then I've got a little showcase wall, and I've got another little nook and everything. And it's anything that keeps them in the circulation and not banished to a case. Do I
yeah.
judge other collectors that have hundreds of pieces that couldn't possibly display them all? No, I'm glad you've got your pieces. But for me personally, when it comes to the ones that I own, that I live with, that I can do something about it, the stuff that's in my world, I hate to
Yeah.
relegate them to case duty unless it's just some
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
utterly exquisite piece that because I don't smoke in my home, but some pieces you don't even want them getting the sunlight.
Yeah, yeah.
But no,
I
I
for
love to
sure.
keep them out, and I love to keep them circulated and keep them strung fresh and seen after. The one of the biggest things in the whole world. Well, I'll say two things that most people just don't ever do, and it's nothing to do it, and it makes all the difference in the world. And that's humidify your acoustic and treat your fretboard on your acoustic or electric.
Yeah,
Because the you can't count on the environment to be kind to your wooden instrument over the
yeah,
decades.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
just the tiniest bit of, you know, even if you don't buff the paint and polish the frets all the time and everything, at least rub a little bit of business into the board so it doesn't crack on you,
yeah.
and your guitar
I
will thank you for it.
I will admit that I do not humidify my acoustics. I just don't play acoustic much. So honestly, my acoustics for the most part, they're case queens. But I do pretty much every time I change strings, I will go ahead and condition the fretboard with a little lemon oil. Not a
Sure,
lot,
little
because it
something.
doesn't need a lot.
Yeah,
But yeah, just a little, just to keep it slightly moist. Again, like you said, really to prevent cracking.
just
I did
something that you
what
care,
you said. Yes. You said something a minute ago that actually made me kind of a separate topic, but it's an interesting thing. You talked about, you'd never judge other people for how they store their guitars. And I don't either, 100%. One thing I do find interesting though, um, I have the rack over here. What you can't see off camera is I have wire shelves but just full of guitar cases. Most of those cases are empty. There are a couple of cases that have guitars in them, but most of them are empty. But I have them all stored sideways, not I have them horizontal, not vertical. Um, and I posted a picture, I think on Reddit, like, a
uh,
year ago or something. And I found it interesting how many people said things like, "Oh, I see you got, guitars up on the top shelf. I can't wait until you knock those over and the guitars go crashing to the floor and you break." I mean, I'm not like playing football up here, I'm not
right.
like,
Good God.
I'm not knocking my shelves over, but B, I always find it interesting how people automatically they go in a real negative direction.
It's so
I can't
toxic.
wait to see all those guitars come crashing down. Like,
Yeah,
but why? Like, will that make
because
you feel better about yourself?
they don't have enough guitars to make a case for it, you know?
I, you know, I think you're probably, I think there is probably a bit of jealousy to that. They see somebody who has a lot of guitars and they like, oh, you must make a
Always.
ton of money. You're a jerk.
Yeah,
Like, I do okay,
yeah,
but I've
hey,
also been
you know what?
collecting for a very long time.
Yeah, it's and sometimes they're right. And you go, "Hey, look, I do make quite a bit of money, and yeah, I could be a jerk sometimes with 27 guitars. Now see yourself on out." It's like you can hate me all you want. Like Jason Newsted used to say, "Yes, we sold out every show this year." There's no,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what can you do? Hey,
Uh,
look, if you don't have haters, you're not winning. That's and God
Well,
forbid somebody's got to reach far enough into your life to the way that you stack empty guitar cases to try to have
yeah,
some
yeah,
kind of gotcha. That's a fan, is what that is. That's a
yeah. I've said myself, like, if you don't have people on the internet who are talking trash about you, then you're doing something wrong. You know what I mean? And on a similar note, I had a similar reaction to. I think you know this. It's a few years ago. I got to the point where I had so many guitar cases, I had to start putting like the blue painter's tape on the side of the
yeah,
case
Blue
and
Tape
writing
Club.
what it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that I know I can remember which case goes to which guitar. And again, I posted a picture of that I think on Reddit, and somebody commented was like, "Oh, that's just like putting a please steal me sign on the guitar case." Like, so
Oh
you
God.
mean that's It's like, okay, so we're talking about a case that has a giant Gibson emblem painted on the side of it. And so you think putting the specific model on a
Yeah.
piece of tape, like small on the side, you think that's a bigger please steal me sign than the giant Gibson logo painted? Like, okay, dude. And again, I always find it interesting when people just like their default is to just go that super negative direction.
Yeah,
Um, I,
absolutely. Like the
I don't, I'm
burglars are
just
going to
that,
be breaking into your house, making their way all the way to the stash, and then get to where all the guitars are and start getting picky. Ooh, wait a minute. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
I like a
Um,
PRS. Now that looks good.
I guess the way I look at it is I'm just in general, I'm a happy, like easygoing, laid back guy. Um, like when it comes to movies, I want to watch comedies because I want to smile and laugh, you know.
Planes.
Um,
Yes.
and that's just that fits my personality type. And when somebody it can be for obviously like for sure if it's somebody I know if something awesome happens for them I am like over the moon happy for them. But also at the same time if somebody I've never met in my life has something great go their way,
Mhm.
you know that's awesome, fantastic, man. I'm just not the kind of guy who's ever you're doing better than me, I hate you, like that's just I don't know, that's foreign to me.
There's
um
so much
Although we're
elitism
kind of
when
getting
it comes, and I guess it comes from the music because there's always been elitism in the music world. I'm not pointing fingers at jazz or heavy
yes.
metal. I'm just saying it exists. But people are the same way when it comes to anything that costs money, I guess. But what kills me is that most of the hate that I see, and we're talking guitars here, is
Yeah.
it's from the people that play inexpensive guitars harping on the people that buy expensive guitars. I very rarely, I won't sit here and tell you it's never happened, it doesn't exist, or that I've never done it personally, but very, very
Yeah.
rarely do I ever see somebody with a living room full of PRSs excoriating someone for playing a Squire. That's just not,
Yeah.
and it's the
Yeah.
same thing in the car circles and stuff too. You don't see
Yeah.
people that have being ugly to people that don't have. It's usually coming from the other way. And they say, "Oh, you wasted all your money on the." Well, hey, you know what? People can do whatever they want. And as long as they like it. Hey, Mike, some of my most expensive guitars that I own, I don't even play them at all. I'm sure though there's some
Yeah.
Facebook forums out there that would love to just tear me to shreds. And then I've got some vintage guitars that some people would dream of owning that I've not been nice to one day yet in the last 36 years. You know?
Yeah.
So,
I yeah.
I'm, I'm the bad
My
guy.
my 79 Les Paul Standard has earned every single battle scar it's got,
Yeah.
hands down.
You want to
Um,
sell it?
but never that guitar um before I had my son, I would have said that guitar is going in the coffin with me.
Yeah.
Now that I have my son, that guitar is going to him when it's his time. Um, or maybe I should say when my time has passed. Um, so yeah, that guitar is like that's never ever 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 going to be on the chopping block. And I've never once been gentle on that guitar, but it's held up to every single thing I've ever done to it. It sounds amazing. It plays amazing. That guitar is an extension of me at this point.
Yep.
Um,
Three-piece
I
maple with the
I
volume.
can I can play any guitar, but every guitar I ever play in my mind is going to be compared to that guitar.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure.
That's
I love that you have a
um,
number one. That's so cool too. Not everybody's that way. Even myself, people
yeah,
ask me all the time, "What's the number one?" And it's like it depends on what you mean. I've got a handful that feel like home, but to have one that's just absolutely unequivocally the top that's cool. Especially what are you up to, Mike? You got 20, 30 guitars?
um,
You're like
about
me, you don't
30.
keep count.
I
Yeah,
haven't like kept and I haven't checked the exact number in a little
yeah.
bit. It's I think if we're counting, so, and it also kind of, it
I've got 2
depends.
coming in the mail. Yeah, how do you count it? I don't know.
Yeah, I got 3 on layaway. If we're counting official 6-string guitars, because I've got an upright bass downstairs that belonged to my dad. I've
Count
got a violin sitting on the shelf that belongs to my wife. I've got a mandolin sitting on the shelf that I picked
that
up
all counts.
at the pawn shop. So, like, and I've got a toy acoustic guitar that I bought my son for Christmas when he was like 8, that's like this
Right.
long. I mean, if you count all that stuff, it's about 30. Again, like, plus or minus one or two. Um,
That's
but
where I hover
yeah,
myself.
I
That's the outer uh, for me, that's the outer realm of maintenance and management, being able to have most of them
yeah,
displayed, have all of them seen to, God forbid, give all of them a little attention. But geez, if you got 30 guitars and you play one every day, that's 12 times a year, and God knows you're not doing that even.
yeah,
So yeah, it's
yeah,
now we God knows
yeah,
we know people that have more. I mean,
yeah. Like, God, I don't even know how many Touche has at this point.
oh sure.
I believe he's upwards of 30.
Yeah, I'm sure. Ethan keeps
Because
30
he's
or
got that.
40.
Yeah, he's got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ethan's like, yeah, Ethan is over 30. I believe Touche is, which I really, I needed to ping Touche. I'd love to get him on an episode of the podcast just to talk about guitar and his studio and all the podunk stuff. But I mean, even Chad's got a good 20, doesn't he? Chad
Yeah.
Mulvaney.
Oh, yeah, yeah, our buddy Chad. We need to get him on one night. Yeah, it becomes a lot to take
Yeah,
care of
yeah,
when you get to that point. Like you say, you have to start labeling cases and strings aren't cheap either. And that doesn't mean you change them
yeah.
every month or anything, but when you got that many instruments, I mean, I'll say this for anybody that's out there, buy strings in bulk every chance you get. Ethan and I have been doing that for
I
quite
buy
some time
strings.
now. Yeah, it's a huge difference. I
Yeah,
mean,
I buy them on Amazon, 12 sets at a time. Um, and I mainly tens and nines. I do nines on 25.5 inch scale and
yeah,
tens on
yeah.
24 3/4 inch scale.
I've been that's it's so funny
And
you
of course,
say that because
y-
I've been really similar lately, especially tuned all the way up to pitch. As of course I'm a lot
yeah,
smaller than you are anyway. I spent a lot of years really going for that wide vibrato and being an aggressive player and everything, and it kind of uh, like like an athlete would, I guess, or whatever. All of those jigga
yeah,
jiggas and wheedly wheedlies, it kind of came home to roost, and I found myself going from 11s to tens to even sometimes nines now, and really appreciating not just how much easier it is on my hands, but it's a different vibe. It makes you're I'm this isn't a rule, it's an opinion, and it's not an all the time, but I feel like it makes you a better player, dynamically speaking. You know what I mean? When to play smaller strings,
yeah,
when you are forced to be more delicate and nuanced with something, I think it brings out,
yeah,
the smaller the precision, and not everybody can do it.
yeah,
Not everybody can play big strings either. But I enjoy the
yeah,
comfort slash challenge of playing the smaller strings now, and I've been really enjoying it. And same thing with picks, Mike. I played jazz threes for years and years, and if I tried to play anything else, it just felt like a shovel in my hand. But as I've gotten older, not
yeah,
only do I use a lot of different shapes, but I find myself using a lot of different thicknesses and even, materials. And it's not about being difficult to please. I can play with most any pick, but as I
yeah,
age
yeah,
and hopefully sweeten, I'd like to think that I'm getting a better idea for what is the right gauge of strings here. What is the right pick? What kind of attack does this song require? Are we, maybe like for
yeah,
me, very commonly it's a cover situation. Are we doing a little Matchbox
yeah, yeah,
20? Well, let's not make it sound like Metallica. and I appreciate
Yeah,
a
yeah,
nylon pick versus, whatever these days more than I used to, for sure.
yeah. Well, I'm a creature of habit, so I
Yeah,
have been playing these Dunlop
love those.
Tortex yellow, like the .7 millimeter.
Can't go
I've
wrong.
been playing this. Yes, I've been using these for 25 years, something like that. And this is, I don't know if the camera will focus on it. This is my actual pick. This from when I was in the band Residue.
Oh, I love
So
it.
it says Residue and has my signature on it.
Yeah.
So this is my pick. And I still have, like, I bought 100 of these, and I still have like 40 or 50 of them. So
Right.
and I haven't been in Residue in 13, 14 years, and I still have lots of picks, but I've been using those forever. And with the strings, I hit my peak ridiculousness again in Residue. We were tuned so low. I think we're tuned to drop C, and I think I got up to like 13s or something at one point. And stylistically, I was playing so hard that anything else, because it was melodic, but it was heavy music, and so I was playing really hard, and any strings lighter than like 13s, I would hit like the open C, and it would pull everything sharp because I was hitting it so hard. So instead of a blah, it was a blah. Um, yeah. So like I said, that's where I got the most ridiculous. But after I left Residue, I was like, well, I'm gonna tune back up, and I tune everything to E flat now, or drop D flat depending. But I just one day I was like, and I initially, like, I went to 12s, and then I went to 11s, and I just kind of like woke up one day. I was like, I'm working too hard when I'm playing guitar, because I'm not playing like the heavy stuff. I'm not playing the low tune stuff anymore, and I'm just working too hard. And I played a couple of Les Pauls in Guitar Center, and Les Pauls ship with tens, and I was like, honestly, like, this feels really good. Like when it's tuned
Nice.
to
Yeah.
E or E flat,
Yeah.
it's like tens on 24 and 3/4 feel good. And I put tens on my Strat and was like, the tension's still like this. The tension's a little too high. Let me try nines, because it is the slightly longer scale. I put nines on the Strat and was like, okay, I like the way this feels. And that's when I settled in. The only exception, my ESP Eclipse, even though it's a 24 and 3/4 inch, there's a weird tension difference. The tens on it felt like 11s on a Les Paul, even though they're the same scale. So I put the nines on the ESP,
Nice.
and like I'm right there in my happy zone. So that's the one exception to my nines versus tens scale length rule. Otherwise, like I said, it just, I don't play as heavy as I used to. I don't play as hard as I used to. And I was talking to Bill the other day. Bill still plays like 12s or something. Like, dude, you're, because he was like, man, I'm getting older, my arthritis. So I was like, you're working too hard, bro. Like, go dry. And Bill never played as hard as you and I play either. So it's like, you don't need to use that heavy strings. So he said he's going to try tens. I don't know if he has yet or not. But you know,
That's Bill
Bill
for you.
Bill's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
But I love the way Bill plays, because as we've discussed before, we all have that thing that it's like our thing, like that, like we have something we all excel at.
Yeah.
Like,
Bill's
you
thing is writing a pretty damn
are,
decent song.
yes, Bill
Yeah.
writes great songs. Bill uses chord voicings I would never think of. And Bill is really good
You'll have to
at
give
chord
us a
voicings.
picture of Bill
Um,
later. You can edit it in, put it in the
yeah,
corner.
yeah. Um,
Like every time we say his name in any
um,
conversation.
Yeah, I've got a few. I'll put something in, and he is
Right.
definitely going to be on a podcast. He wants to do it when he comes to town. He wants to actually do an in
Yeah.
studio podcast where he's sitting here with me. So, but so like I said, Bill's amazing at chord voicings. You are amazing at improv. If I could actually get the word out, improvisational, like soloing lead work, like that's like you are so good at that. It blows me away. I
It's but
cannot like I have to like put a lot of thought into any sort of lead work. I cannot improvise at all. My thing is melodies. Like I can write a decent song, but where I really shine is like the background melodies that just like adding the layers and the textures. So that's so like I said, like you put the three of us together, and we can write some amazing stuff because Bill will write those amazing chord voicings. He and I both are great like riff writers,
this
and
stuff
like I
has
said, then
always
I'll
hooked
put in
me,
some
you know.
textures, and then
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I've always,
yeah,
you guys both write accessible stuff. Like whenever I sit down to write something, it always just feels too involved or like I need somebody else. I'll bounce a lot of stuff off of Ethan or whatever, but it just never feels right if it's just me doing it. And when it comes to solo stuff, like,
yeah,
man, I tell you, the the best playing I've ever done in my life is close my eyes and I think, what would Aaron Williams do? And it just winds up being whatever it is. Sometimes it works, but and I know everybody's got that
and now I have to put a picture of
drum
Aaron
set.
Williams in.
Yeah, there you go. Then you got to have him in there. But
Yeah,
just like just like Zach Wild had a guy that nobody's ever heard of to this day that showed him everything. I've got a guy too that's not a
yeah,
famous rock star, but that I spent a lot of formative years with. It's a like you say, a true artist and improviser, and and I think that works. I think that's honestly, I think actors do that a lot too. That's really
yeah,
what do we do? Because what is music but a series of ripoffs in order. It's just our influences, the best that we can piece them together, you know, and we're
yeah,
just, acting like that's, someone else. And you might do that for an entire piece, or you might do it for just one measure, or you might do it for just one lick. But at the end of the day, that's basically, you're doing your little Robert De Niro there for a second, and then you're doing your little Christian Bale there for a second, and it goes on and on. And I have a lot of
yeah,
artists like that I kind of visualize to a certain degree, when I'm playing, like it quite literally, like what would this person do? What would and I think a lot of that comes from years of, I was not the original, let's try to be famous, being a lot of original bands guy. I've always been the cover guy for money on the weekends type of cat. And from having to learn
yeah,
so many different artists from different decades and stuff, it kind of almost forces you into that mindset. So that when you do, in fact, do
yeah,
something
yeah,
original, it's almost like you're accessing a Rolodex of other people's techniques, as opposed to just where it was like an
yeah,
unschooled player would, like Kurt Cobain or somebody that just kind of feels their way through it or something. I love that music has so many different
yeah, yeah,
approaches. Yeah, and
yeah. I agree.
I, I don't even know what works for me. I
Well,
just know what
I
I do.
yeah, exactly. Sometimes I have to put a lot of thought into it, um, but the way I usually say it is, um, I have written some pretty good songs over the years, but the best songs that have come out of me, I've simply dictated. I don't know what it was. I don't know how it happened. Something just came out, and I heard the whole thing in my head, and I just made the fretboard mimic what I heard in my head. So that's
Right.
what, and it's those songs, like the good songs take a while. The best songs come out in 5 minutes. And it's
Yeah,
just the way it's always been for me.
those are your John
Um,
Fogerty tunes.
so
You go to the bathroom 20 minutes later, Born on the Bayou or something, and it's like, where'd that come from? Hell, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes you're just
yeah.
channeling
So
the spirits, for sure.
yeah.
That's cool, man.
Well, we've been going for about an hour and 5 minutes now. I think we might be hitting a good stopping point.
Wouldn't trade it for the world. I'll try to give you a
Yeah,
better
had
camera
a
angle
great
next
time.
time.
Definitely want to do it again soon.
Hell yeah, brother.
Oh, yeah. I This one definitely beats the garage from last time. So,
I'm learning.
all right. So that's it for tonight. I really appreciate it, and we will get you back on soon. And everyone watching, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thanks. Ooh. The wife is gonna kill me, but it's gonna be worth it.